Welcome to the 20th video with me, Positive Pussy. I can't believe I'm at video 20. I'm so happy to have done 20 plus videos so far, and I'm hoping to do many more. I have a lot of topics in mind and ideas in store and some changes that are actually coming soon. So one big change that's happening is this is my last video I'm recording live. Not forever, of course. I'm still going to be doing, oh, sorry, I'm trying to fix this whole thing. See, this is why I don't want to do live videos anymore, because sometimes I'm like adjusting the screen and all that shit, and like, you don't need to see all that. Sometimes my cat comes in, or like my curtain falls down. Like, what are you gonna do? It's a live video. So yeah, one big change is that I'm not going to be doing regular live videos anymore, and that doesn't include bonus episodes. So in fact, I'm going to still do live videos once a month. So because my domain name is positivepussy.live, check it out if you haven't, and my email is positivepusslive@gmail.com. I wanted those to still make sense, and I didn't want to stop doing live videos. So once a month, there is going to be a mandatory bonus live sex questions video. Anyone can log on, ask a question, and it will be live. Or if you want to send me a more private question, you could email me, positivepusslive@gmail.com. And if I don't get any questions from viewers like you, I will go to the internet, probably Reddit, to get some questions to talk about on the bonus episodes, which I will be doing at least once a month. So please send questions or rants or comments or whatever you want to send me, positivepusslive@gmail.com. Or you can tweet me at positivepuss, or you can comment. You can comment on, I guess, one of these videos or wherever you want to comment. I've got a website. You can comment on there too. You can DM me. You can slide into my DMs, whatever you want. I'm not famous and I'm not very popular. So if you want to ask me a question, you know that it will be sincerely answered and looked at. And hopefully with that sort of live once a month thing, the live part will still make sense in my domain, because I don't want to change my domain. And I don't want to stop doing live videos. I do think that these are fun and I perform well under pressure, hopefully. But they're only useful if people participate. And participation is pretty low for my live videos so far. So as you can see, no one has said anything. So every video does not need to be live, and I think it'll be better if I just do once a month. So that way, if people ever did want to, they can still participate. And if you don't want to, which most people it seems don't, that's fine. You can just watch the videos. I'm going to pre-record them now. So that's it. I really want to amp up my video editing skills from 0 to any amount. So bear with me. Hopefully they don't look bad. But I think it's going to be a good change, because I want to get some video editing skills. So I think that this will be a good way for me to do it. Obviously, I'm making videos and I'm not editing them, so I should be, to learn. So this means I'm going to be releasing videos every Wednesday to make your hump day that much sexier. And so I'll have time to pre-record the videos and edit them and release them. So instead of Tuesdays, you can watch a new video every Wednesday, and then once a month I don't know when, but there will be a bonus episode once every month that will be live. And that one will be coming soon for August. And I will be having a guest soon in August. So stay tuned. I got some plans for y'all. So if you want to stay up to date on everything that's going to be happening, it's going to be so fun and crazy. I'm really blowing this out of proportion. So subscribe to my YouTube. you're on it now. Follow me on Twitter at positivepuss and send your sex questions to positivepusslive@gmail.com. And check out my website, positivepussy.live. It's going to stay positivepussy.live because I like it and I still do some live videos and I will be doing live videos. So yes, this is the last one that you will be able to see very, very live. So anyway, I'm really excited for this coming month. There's a lot of fun stuff in store for me personally. I mean, not so much for, maybe for you guys too. I don't know your life. But yeah, so stay tuned. And also, I might be making an Instagram soon, and the reason is because I always see pictures online that are fun and sex related, and I don't really have anywhere to post them except for my Twitter, and I always forget to post on Twitter. So the reason why I don't want to make an Instagram is I'm afraid I'm going to forget to post on it as well, because I'm really bad at social media. I'm just not good at staying up to my own personal accounts, and then on top of that, like another account. So it would be really difficult for me to do all of that. So we'll see. I'm thinking about it really hard. Let's do some hard thinking, and hopefully, yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's get into today's topic, which is me. I'm sorry to be so self-absorbed, but it's been 20 weeks since I last talked about sex positivity, and I wanted to dive deeper into my own sex positive philosophy. And I am using the term philosophy very lightly, just by the way. And also, the reason why this is a very self-absorbed video is because my philosophy works for me. And I know my own philosophy better than anybody else's because it's me and it's my own thoughts, and that I know myself more than I know other people. And this is what works for me. If my philosophy does not work for you, my version of sex positivity just doesn't coincide with yours, and if you disagree with me on anything, then that's fine and dandy. But I do generally recommend that people be sex positive, and that's because I believe that it's better than the negative alternative, carrying fear and shame about your sexual self and whatnot. So whatever sex positive means for you, that is great. In this video, I'm just going to talk about what it means for me. So the first aspect to my sex positive philosophy is to stay educated. I love to learn, especially when it pertains to sex at all. And the original topic for this episode was going to be sex and hormones. And then I realized I didn't learn enough. And I wanted to learn more before I talked about it to other people. And because it was the 20th episode, I figured I'd do something a little more fun and free, less scripted. But I think that sex and hormones and like learning about all that stuff really in depth is fun. And obviously not everybody is me. So I don't expect everyone to spend like hours and ample amounts of time on the internet researching things like anal or homosexuality, just to be educated on those things. But when I come across something new, I like to educate myself before I judge. And I think that's just a really good tip for everyone. So before you make a solid judgment of something, definitely try to be educated about it. Obviously, your brain is going to make judgments based on previous notions that you have, and you can't help it, whether these notions are from society or your family or your friends. But if you can recognize that the things that you initially think are based on outside influences, then you can challenge these things as you educate yourself and form a true judgment based on whatever it is. So if it's a gender orientation that you had never heard of before, or you're confused about, or a sex act or a sexual preference, go ahead, make your initial judgments. That's totally fine. Everyone's going to do it. But as you learn more and educate yourself about it, challenge those preconceived notions and try and figure out, where did you learn that from? Was it from like family? Was it from religion? Was it from school? Like, where was this and what previous agenda did they maybe have? And if it's something like sexual preference or gender orientation, like, are these facts or are these just things that have been said in previous places like the Bible? So how can you educate yourself on things? Well, You can watch videos like mine. I try to be very factual, and I try to keep my opinions out of most of it most of the time. But yeah, you can watch videos like mine. I have tons of videos on stuff. Pleasure, masturbation, consent. Now, I can't even remember some of them, like polyamory. And there are so many more to come. Of course, I'm only on video 20. You can do research online, which is what I do for my videos. You can get a book or listen to a podcast or watch a documentary or take a class if you're in college. I did not take the human sexuality class at UC Davis. However, I did sit in on, I think it maybe max 5, but it was definitely more than 2 or 3 classes because I did learn quite a bit of information. But I just sat in on the human sexuality class when I went to college, and I didn't actually take the course, so I didn't get credit for it, and I never took any tests. So obviously I was just learning for fun, but just sitting in and learning that stuff was really fun and helped me, even though I didn't get to choose what I was learning. It just like came in information and I was like, cool, used it for later. But I'm also a self-proclaimed sex nerd. So if you're just trying to learn about something specific, obviously you can find that information out there in the world. Go to a library. Did you know that those still existed? If you really can't find any information on the specific thing that you want, then ask. People love to talk about themselves, clearly. So asking people is a great option, especially if it's something that's very personal. And whether it's people that you know or anonymously online, like Reddit is a really great place to ask anonymous questions or to ask people anonymously about themselves. If you're just asking people, you probably will receive the information you want. But whatever you do, however you get your information, just make sure you're getting accurate information. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt and trust only accredited sources over just like random stuff people say. So if you are asking other people, try to get things a little bit fact checked if it's something you can fact check, why not fact check it? Another part to my philosophy is to trust science. I think that it's similar to being educated or staying educated, but because obviously if you're educating yourself, you should be educating yourself on science because science is everything and it's everywhere. But science should be a part of the education that you're getting wherever you are. And if you're educating yourself, then try to include some science in there because it's important and it's everywhere and it's everything. But I'm not just saying you should learn science or know about science. I'm saying trust science. If you're not sure if something is true or not, if there is empirical scientific evidence or research done that's based on science, it's more likely to be true. Also, science and religion, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. However, sometimes they do clash. We all know this. If you choose to follow the path of religion, that is your choice, and you are allowed to make your own rules about your own body and sexuality. If your rules are to let your religion make the rules, that's your choice. I do not force my choice of being a slut on all of the religious people. So I do not appreciate religious people trying to force their rules on me. Since science is kind of like my religion, I'm very spiritual about science. I believe in science almost like people believe in God. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of that funny movie, Nacho Libre. When the guy's like, I only believe in science. That's me. Yeah, so the only difference there's a lot of differences. Science doesn't use shame to control your behavior. If you read something and it's a scientific fact, then it's probably just that, a scientific fact. It's not trying to shame you or make you act a certain way. It's just science. It just is. I don't want to start an argument for or against religion, even though it's pretty clear what side I would be on. And I was raised semi-religious, more than most people, but less than some. And the problem is that religion does use shame to control behavior, shame and fear. oftentimes to control behavior. And if you do choose to believe in religion and follow the sexual morality rules that it has in place, then you are also choosing to put yourself at risk of the negative effects that shame has on natural human acts. Or for shaming things that you can't control, like sexuality and your sexual urges. If you choose to follow those rules and shame yourself for masturbating or whatever it is, there are psychological risks to shaming yourself for doing stuff like that, because they're definitely natural things. Just like if you were to, like, people who have shame around eating have a lot of eating disorders or issues with eating, just like shame around sex can also cause sexual disorders and sexual dysfunctions and whatnot. So you do face causing yourself real harm by shaming yourself for doing something that's natural and for being a human, basically. So I trust science because science proves that there's a spectrum to human sexuality. And so there are a lot of different variations to pleasures and interests. And some of it has to do with who you are, your personality, and some of it has to do with your environment and how you're raised. Obviously, not everyone has daddy issues like me. And science tells us that we all like different things. Sex and desire are natural. Sex is healthy, and being sexual is normal, and as well as variations in libido and sexual impulses. So, yeah, I like science. My third aspect is all consensual sex is good sex, which is a normal thing to think if you are a sex-positive individual. People who can't give consent include animals, children, anyone under the influence of drugs or past the legal limit of alcohol. If you are an adult, there are ways you can practice consensual non-consent, but there is initial consent there, so there you go. And if you have to use your power or influence over someone or blackmail them into consent, then that's not freely given consent. I did a whole video on consent, video 10. So if you want to know more, you should definitely watch it. Plus, there are a lot of really great and simple videos out there on consent. So there's no excuse. Know what consent is, know how to get it, and when you can't get consent, and always make sure that you have it. So the last part of my sexual philosophy, I guess. Is this the last part? Who knows, man? I don't know how much I wrote about it. Oh, okay, the second to last part. This is kind of like, well, I mean, I guess this is kind of like be educated, but this is no judgment without understanding. So this is probably the hardest part of my philosophy because I'm a human. And I immediately judge things just like everybody does. And I haven't found the secret to being a superhuman and postponing judgments. But I try to take my own judgments and others' judgments and really decide whether it's something I can judge or something I should just leave alone. And the term judgment for me just simply means like approve or disapprove. Because for a lot of times people they're like, oh, like you're judging me. Well, who cares if they're making a decision in their head about you? The thing that actually is really, well, the thing about judgment that is negative, I think, is that it also includes shame. So like if someone is judging you, they're probably also shaming you because their judgment is bad. So, for me, if I'm saying like I'm judging something, it's just like I'm making a decision whether I approve or disapprove of this, would be okay with somebody doing this or not be okay with somebody doing this. And not just to me, but just in general. So an easy way to put this is like, I approve of consensual sex. I do not approve of rape. So when I hear that people have sex without consent, my judgment of that is I do not approve. So there's not really much, like, I can't do anything about it because, like, what am I going to do? I'm not a real judge, it doesn't matter. So judgments are not like a bad, good, and like they're not ultimately like a bad thing always. But that's just like a tangent a little bit. What really is the thing is shame, and we'll get to shame a little bit. So when someone has sex with someone else without consent, I do not approve of that behavior. So the word judge, like I said, it just gets misconstrued a lot. But overall, I try not to form opinions about things that I don't understand. I like to try almost everything once. So I like to form preferences and opinions after understanding as well. So judgments, preferences, opinions, all of these things, I just want to be able to understand them before I try and like make some sort of decision on them. And when I say understand, I just mean like what it is. So understand what it is, what it entails, and the consequences of it. So if it's a sexual orientation, so like who are they attracted to? What does it mean? And what are the consequences of this? So okay, they date other sexes. Okay, whatever. Like if there's an action that's causing harm, that's usually where I would disapprove. There's a lot of things that people judge others on, I guess, or like disapprove of, which doesn't even cause anybody any harm. So like your own sexual desires and preferences. Your own sexual desires and preferences are your own sexual desires and preferences. Even if you have a sexual desire or preference to do something harmful, that doesn't mean you're doing something harmful. You can still have your sexual desires and preferences and have no shame about them and still be a great human being who practices consensual sex with people, even if your desire is to not. If you don't rape anybody, then you're not a rapist. There you go. So you're not harming anyone just by having sexual desires and preferences. The kind of consensual sex you have and choose to have, people disapprove of that sometimes too. So like if I choose to have really crazy consensual sex, some people might disapprove of the way that I'm having sex, but who are you to tell me I can have sex that way? And who you consent to have sex with. So if I did consent to only have sex with women, or only women and men at the same time, or only myself, people tend to put their own judgments, approvals or disapprovals on that. But these things don't harm anybody else. These are my things, my sexuality. So I try not to place any judgments, approve or disapprove of anyone's sexual desires or preferences, who they choose to have sex with, and how. Like, you want to do that, you do it. All consensual sex is good sex, like I've said. When I make a judgment on somebody, when I do make a judgment, so like if I do say like, no, I don't approve of you having sex with people without their consent, then I don't shame the person for doing that. Shame is not a tool, and I think this is the last aspect of my philosophy, because shame doesn't work and it mostly just causes harm. So if I'm somebody who doesn't want to cause harm to anybody, but I'm also shaming people for causing harm to people, then I'm causing more harm to people. One time a family member told me, you should be ashamed of yourself. Well, they're from the South, so she was like, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're damn shame. You should be ashamed of yourself. And my response to her was, well, I'm not, so what now? You know, it's like, it doesn't work. If you're shaming people and they don't care what you are shaming them for and they don't feel the shame, then it's just not even going to work. And also, that's how you can kind of escape other shame. If you're being shamed for something you shouldn't be, you can escape it by just not caring and just not feeling the shame. Obviously, it's a lot harder and there's more to it than that. But it's pretty straightforward and simple if you think of it in those terms. So I did grow up with Christian sexual shame, and yet I still grew up a bisexual, polyamorous slut who talks about sex constantly. So obviously shame does not work. All it does, it gave me, like it gives many others, anxiety, depression, surrounding the ideas that I wasn't good enough, that I was always going to be a used up slut, that I was a cheater, and that I would never be happy because I didn't want to be married with a family. And eventually I would end up alone because no man would want me. So shame is extremely harmful to our sexualities, which is why I don't approve of judgment with shame or shaming others for having different preferences or opinions than I do. It's easier to understand people when you are educated. So I think the last thing I'll say is education. Full circle, man. I think everyone should receive sex education where afterwards it's understood how to practice safe sex, how to get and give consent, and the risks and benefits of sex. I say benefits because a lot of times when you get sex education, or when I did get sex education in school, I did learn about condoms, and I learned about, safe sex, and I learned about consent and stuff. But no one ever told me what the benefits of sex were. No one ever said why we would have sex or why we would even want to have sex. It was just like, this is what it is, and these are the bad things. And no one talked about like all of the other stuff that you can get from sex. The more you know about sex, the safer you can explore it. And for me, sex positivity was about realizing that what shame and religion had to say about sex was that I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm sorry. So basically, sex education shouldn't just talk about all of the bad stuff. It should talk about the good stuff too. And I think that over time, I learned to help me become more sex positive as a person. I don't know. I was trying to read what I wrote, but apparently I was like losing it right there. Anyway, I'll talk about high school a little bit. So high school, nobody cares about high school, Maggie, but in high school, positive pussy, I quickly learned in high school that there was like some sort of ironic aspect to sex where everybody wanted to talk about it, but nobody wanted to talk about it. Like everyone was too ashamed to talk about sex, yet everybody was having sex, wanted to talk about sex, and was super interested once you brought it up. That was like really confusing for me in high school, especially as someone who I was slut shamed. I didn't really feel a lot of the shame because I was like, all right, whatever, if you guys want to call me a slut, that's fine. But there was a lot of slut shaming going on in my high school, and I definitely did get a bunch of that, and there were a lot of rumors, and if anyone did go to high school with me, they know what I'm talking about, and you probably heard a rumor about me and some guy and sex, I bet, one time. But the best way to combat that is to just realize that, like, you know, what is it going to do to you? You can still do you no matter what people are saying about you. So basically, I talked a lot about sex to people in high school and college, and I felt that that was the best way for me to learn about sex. And the more that you learn about regular people and the sexual world, the better you are navigating yourself through the sexual world. And I think that anyone who is a sexual person, which which probably is 99% of adults, even more than that. If you are a sexual person, sex positivity, I will say you should give it a try. But the last aspect to my philosophy is that no one can tell you what to do. So I can sit here all day and talk about sex positivity and tell you should be sex positive, but at the end of the day, you're going to do exactly what you want to do. You make your own rules. And, well, let's be clear, there are laws in the world, and you can choose not to follow the laws, and that's not advisable by me. However, I break laws every now and then. I mean, so does everyone. Sometimes I drive without my seatbelt on. Sometimes I run a red light on accident, and I have smoked weed, which is legal in California, but in the rest of the United States, in some states, it's not legal. So yeah, sometimes I break the law. And if you choose to break the law, just know that you face the consequences of doing so. But in the end, nobody can force you to follow the law. Just like I can't tell you that you have to be sex positive, and I can't tell you that you have to have more sex. Everyone gets to make their own decisions. So if having all the sex is for you, then awesome. If having no sex is for you, then that's also awesome. More for me, even though that's not how it works. My point is, you do you. Don't shame anyone for doing them. If you're doing something that hurts other people, or if somebody else is doing something that hurts other people, then that's hopefully where others will step in and take action and try to end that. Otherwise, be considerate, educate yourself, let go of your shame, and don't shame others, and be happy with your sexual self. Everyone and anyone can be sex positive, and I encourage everyone to give it a chance. And if you're sex negative, you carry shame or guilt, try changing your attitudes and ideas about sex, because I promise that adopting sex positivity into your life will free your sexual soul. I have a ton of respect for sex and sexuality because I believe it's more than just a fun thing to do. As a sex positive person, I respect the act as a way for two humans to come together and be intimate and share vulnerability. And I believe that sex makes me a kinder person, a more understanding individual, and somebody who believes more in equality. And because I feel like every human, we realize that we have these differences, whether they be sexual differences or outward appearance differences, but deep down, we all just want to fuck. I wanted to end there on that really cool deep note where we all just want to fuck, but even if you don't want to fuck, that's okay too. I had to add that. Because sex positivity is not about any of that. It's not about how you have sex or how much sex you have. It's about how you see sex and your attitude towards it. And you don't have to have everything figured out now, because we are humans and we make mistakes, and we're allowed to make mistakes. When I was in high school, I kind of just owned being a slut. And I felt like if I'm a slut, then cool, that means I'm having a lot of sex. I was luckier back then that I felt like I didn't really care what people said. And even now, I don't really care too much about what people say about me. But that idea still put me in this box, and it made me feel like I couldn't be anything else but a slut. I didn't care that I was a slut, but at the same time, I wanted to be other things too. So this whole idea that I couldn't be anything else really got to me when I finally got to college and realized, well, if I'm going to be a slut, then I guess I have to be a slut. So don't make that mistake where you think that other people are making these rules about your sexuality, because nobody is. You don't have to be put in that box if you don't want to. So I guess my last overarching general tip is do what makes you happy. And I know that as a cisgendered white woman from California, I have the privilege to do what makes me happy. But if you're not in any physical danger, then yeah, do what makes you happy. Realize that shame isn't real, and it's just a tool that people use to control your sexual behavior. And these tools, they don't have to control you. So yeah. And when I see people that doing what makes them happy, I tip my hat and I say, yeah, you just keep on doing you. Yeah, so that's the end of my very long, 30-minute long sex positive rant. I hope that I said something of substance. I hope that you get some sort of really good sex positive wisdom out of all of that. So yeah, next week I'm going to upload, for the first time, a video that I have edited for the first time. So the video is going to be on sex and hormones, and it will come out on Wednesday, meaning I'm going to upload the video onto YouTube at 12 o'clock on Tuesday night. But I live in California, which is the best place. So it will be Pacific time, because that's the only time, because California is amazing. I'm feeling a lot of California bias right now. But yeah, speaking of California, it's National Avocado Day today and National Orgasm Day. So I hope everybody gets to have an orgasm or experience some sort of sexual pleasure, because having goal-oriented sex does not always lead to reaching the goal. And also eat an avocado, because avocados are basically food, lube, and orgasms for your mouth. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you pussies next hump day. So not tomorrow, but next hump day. But for now, this little pussy is me out of here.